This is food. This is beans.
All right, Adrian, let's take a closer look at Season 2, Episode 4 of The Last of Us on HBO. What are your high-level thoughts? Your spoiler-free thoughts, Adrian?
Yes, Simon, my spoiler-free thoughts of this episode of The Last of Us Season 2 is I think this is actually the first genuinely great episode of the season. I think from the pacing to the performances of the main cast to just everything surrounding this episode was brilliant. It expanded on lore that from the video game, kept fairly faithful to the video game apart from a couple of things which we can talk about. But yeah, as a whole, I love this episode. Actually, this is my favorite episode of the season by far. I don't even think it's close. And yeah, I really like this one. What did you think, Simon?
It's a mixed bag for me. It's good. I like it. It's similar to the last episode in that I have some gripes with various elements, but I do like the way it begins. I think that's really great. I thought that's awesome. I thought that the acting and the choices of casting were really neat in various points in the episode. There's some really good moments. There's some good moments of kind of a calm in the pacing as well, and the way that it's done, in that they kind of spread it out and they don't rush certain elements of the episode, which I appreciate. This is an episode directed by Kate Herron, who's the director of Loki season 1 specifically, and this is also written by Craig Mazin. He wrote the last few. I will also say, and this is important, I disrespected Peter Hoare, the director of episode 3 of season 2, because I said, I don't know what he's done. A lesser known director. He's not directed that much that I know of. That's completely false. He directed season 1, episode 3 of The Last of Us. So what a stupid thing. So he directed Long Time, which is my favorite episode of The Last of Us. So I just wanted to set the record straight, going back to last week for a brief moment. But other than that, I thought it was good. I just, there's some elements of the writing that I don't like here, and I feel like it's funny. You didn't like the writing in the beginning of the season, but there's parts here that I don't love carrying forward from last episode into this one that I'm not a huge fan of. But I like the idea of the way that they're fleshing out the background of this world in this episode. That's the best part of it. And I think that they once again nailed some of the anxiety-inducing moments, the tone of the game that you kind of get when you're playing The Last of Us Part 2. They nailed that in some key sequences here, which I thought was great as well. But yeah, I'll throw it back to you. Sorry, I spoke for a bit of time there.
No, man. I agree with the positive statements you're making there. I'm curious about diving into like what you didn't like and what aspects of the writing that you don't think were, fantastic. For me, I thought the pacing in this episode was very well balanced. There's a lot of moments of calm with, again, these like high anxiety inducing moments that felt, again, like you were playing a video game at times, which is very cool. They were able to replicate that. I think, from a visual level as well in this episode, brilliant. The set piece designs, like the set pieces, top tier. It ripped straight from the game. I think there was a lot of love and care put into this episode. Not to detract from the other episodes. I kind of feel bad saying that because I think there's love and care put into all these episodes. I think, the intention is there a lot of the time, but I think this is the first episode for me this season where the intention actually hit the mark. Again, I really love this episode. So I'm excited to kind of dive into more specific moments with you and see where we might differ.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Oh, actually, before we move on, I just want to say, just to set the record straight, I largely do like this episode. And the way I score things typically, I don't know how you do exactly necessarily, but the way I score things out of 5 for the scores aspect, although my scores differ and change constantly in Letterboxd as an example, because as I watch better movies, again, we've talked about that before, but on a whole, if I'm scoring something over like a 3 or above, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
And every episode of this season and last season has been hovering around that 4 mark pretty much. Like I've like, I don't think there's very many episodes that I can't say are great. I think they've been largely good. And this one's good as well. I do like it. So I just want to say that before we kind of move on. But yeah, moving on then to now the spoilers aspect of this episode. Adrian, let's I'll throw it to you. What did you like? What did you not like? It seems like you largely liked this episode based on what you said in the non-spoiler portion of this A Closer Look. But what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, from a sense, you brought up the opening scene of this episode. I think this opening scene is amazing. I love it. This is what I want from this show. I want you to expand on bits of lore from the game and bring it to life on screen and show it to us. Again, as you know, if you've listened to the last reviews as well, I want them to stay very close to the source material, as close as possible, and only change things that arguably need to be changed for a good reason, or simply just don't change it at all. Or again, and then add scenes to this to kind of expand on what we already know and love. And I think that opening scene really highlighted this moment with Isaac, who's a character that's introduced, played by Jeffrey Wright. Same actor who plays that character in the video game as well, which is really cool to see on screen. Not the first time they've done this for the series, but I'm really glad they did that. And it kind of just shows like Isaac was a part of Fedra, and obviously he betrays Fedra at some point and joins the WLF, people, and is, from the looks of it, now running the WLF when we see him again at a later scene. Because that scene, I think, takes place 9 years prior to this season, if I recall correctly, because it shows like a little time jump there. And yeah,
didn't they say 11?
It might have been 11. You might be right. Okay, I'll believe you. You got a better memory than I do. We're coming in fresh, by the way. This is like the episode just finished
moments
like 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
It was 2018, and then the show starts in 2023, like the first season.
Yeah.
After the time jump, we joined Joel and Ellie in 2023, and then after that, 5 years have passed.
Yeah, so that's 9 years. That's 10 or
9
or 10 years.
They said 11 years later, though, in the title card, didn't they?
I thought it said 9 years later. You might be right. Who cares?
Maybe you're right. It doesn't matter. A long way away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long way after.
But yeah, I really love that scene. I thought it was really cool. It added like a lot of, I don't know. It showed like how fucked Fedra was essentially. And that from the looks of it, Isaac, joining the WLF was for a good cause, because he thinks those people are animals. Like Fedra is animals, and the way they talk about human life. And it from just that opening scene alone, it seemed like he was kind of disgusted about being a part of Fedra. And now he's kind of joining a new cause, which is really cool, because we then see, him again, and he's torturing a naked man who he calls a Scar. And they say that they're Seraphites. We've seen them in the previous episode, not by name. And it's like, oh, you left Fedra because, they were so dehumanizing. They treated people awfully.
Right.
Became like a wolf. And now you're kind of doing something absolutely atrocious and torturing that guy. And the guy that, is with him in that first scene is literally like, they're animals. Like, they're pieces of shit. Like, good that he kills them. And I thought that was really... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I finished your stuff.
I was like, I just thought that was a really cool play, and it like adds a lot of character development from a character that we have now only seen in 2 scenes. And I thought that was brilliant.
One of the great things about the game, and I think they're doing it pretty solidly here. We'll see how it plays out for the rest of the season and next season. But one of the neat things about it is the idea of perspective. Like, what is the perspective of various characters and how that perspective changes? And like, when you're in the driver's seat and something happens badly to you or your family or whoever your loved ones or whatever it may be, how does your perspective change? When does somebody become the enemy? And like the idea of like scapegoating somebody or making them seem, or just you are passionate about this idea of this perspective change. When I'm talking about passion for certain perspectives, I'm talking about the audience's perspective. The audience is very attached to certain characters and certain perspectives. That's also a part of The Last of Us Part 2 in a big way too, which is super fascinating, and I'm curious to see how it plays out. It's kind of a neat idea. There's obviously themes of revenge and grief. Obviously, we've seen that already in this season. But that's the perspective is a huge part of The Last of Us Part 2 that's on a narrative perspective. Oh, so that's a weird way to say that. But on a narrative level, that's what I really love about The Last of Us Part 2. So yeah, it's really neat that he's because like the shoe's now on the other foot in a strange way. But that first scene, I really love it. That's what I was talking about earlier. I thought that was really great. And I think that they really took their time with it. Also, you see Josh Peck from Jake and Josh and Oppenheimer. And various other things now.
And How I Met Your Father, most.
Sure. But he was great in that scene too. But there's that, again, it's a neat thing. They're calling them voters. People who, like, they are dehumanizing, as you say, like pretty much the people who they have to be in charge of. Because they have no vote.
Yeah, they have no rights.
They have no rights, yeah. But yeah, Jeffrey Wright's great. I think Jeffrey Wright might be, I could be wrong, but I feel like he's the most well-known actor on a larger scale that's in the game. Like he's the guy that people would know probably most easily across the board. Like I was kind of surprised to hear his name in the credits or hear his voice, I guess, when I played The Last of Us Part 2, which is pretty cool. He's just great in everything he's in, honestly. Jeffrey Wright's amazing. I really like Jeffrey Wright as an actor. And he did a great job here in this one episode. It was a cool way they shot it too. They just panned the camera over and then it's Jeffrey Wright. And there's something really neat about that. But yeah, cool. Yeah. I love we talked about the stealth sequence. There's that sort of in a very, very vague way, but there's that stealth sequence with Ellie and Dina, and they're in that compound and they discover the wolves who have been killed and gutted. Their intestines are hanging out. And I love the feeling of that stealth element, the feeling of you're playing a video game, almost that kind of anxiety that you feel of trying to escape from people who are clearly outmanning you. Because if you don't have stealth in that kind of moment, you're dead because they have literally AR-15 type rifles. So you're done. So that was really cool. And then it moves into that scene in the transit tunnels. And I love that red light thing in anything. Speaking of another thing that actually Jeffrey Wright's in, they have that actually similarly in the Batman. There's that red flare that goes down. It's a similar kind of vibe. And that's actually part of their title card actually for this season. They have that red flare going up as the Last of Us logo comes up in some of their trailers. So I thought that whole sequence with the infected, the makeup, you mentioned the set piece, the production values of this overall episode, fantastic. I really liked it, but I'll throw it to you. I don't want to go too far with that.
No, I agree with that. I really love the scene just before they go into the radio tower as well. How, Dina and Ellie are talking. And again, I just really want to hammer home the point. Isabella Merced as Dina is brilliant casting. She brings such an amazing level of charm. I love Bella Ramsey as Ellie as well. And the chemistry they have on screen is palpable. And there's the scene where they're talking about, like, what if we find wolves and they're not part of the crew that killed Joel? And Ellie just gives Dina a look, and it's so expressive, and you know exactly what she's saying. And Dina goes, I agree. And they go in. And it's like essentially them being like, all right, we are probably going to have to kill people. And they do, right? And it is like such a cool way to do that. Again, that stealth section, as you're talking about how she sneaks up and just stabs the guy in the neck. And as they're running away and going into that train station and those lights are being thrown, there's this like level of like intensity and anxiety where, you're hoping they're going to be okay. And obviously, they are. Again,
going back to that moment where she stabs the guy, she kind of does a chokehold on him. There's something interesting about that too, because in the show so far, we haven't seen Ellie really overpower a grown man yet. But there's that element in the games that, you kill many people theoretically. But that's something that's quite interesting.
Though, like we've seen it only in that first episode where she's training in the barn with Jesse. So
Yeah.
like they kind of
But
plant
it's
that
training.
seed early on. Yeah.
So that's cool, but that's not real. It's not real
Mhm.
life. And they did a foreshadowing in that you don't know why she's fighting in that barn scene. Actually, that's a kind of a clever way they shot that first scene in the first episode of season 2. But I feel like you don't really get the idea that she could maybe actually overpower them because she's a pretty small person, like relatively speaking. So
Mhm.
that's kind of a neat thing to see that she could be formidable in these types of situations. And I was wondering, are they going to do it? Are they going to show us that potentially in this sequence? Because the game can be quite violent and you play as Ellie. So what does that mean? Like, are they going to just make her kind of stealth away every time, or what are they going to do? We don't know. That's the question, but now we do a little bit. So that's kind of neat too.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that entire sequence in that underground train station where again the wolves are down there, they're throwing those flares. Just that, like, I agree with you. I love that sort of aesthetic, that like red aesthetic in like a dark environment, or red aesthetic in like a very brightly lit white environment. Thinking of like the Raid or the Raid 2 or something like that, where the blood splattering in that white kitchen. So
Severance.
Severance as well. Yeah. And so I really love that sort of contrast. I love the color red. I think it works so well in anything. So it was really cool to see. And just kind of, I like how they keep on bringing back Dina counting infected, right? So the wolves are down there, they're throwing flares. There's this like level of like, oh shit, like they're coming, we got to hide. And then you start hearing the infected in the distance, and Dina's sitting there counting them, like 1, 2. And at a certain point when she hits 5, she's like, there's this level of fear that they know, like, oh shit, this is a lot. And you just see those infected swarming in as they're like overtaking the wolves. And it makes for a incredible chase sequence with Ellie and Dina kind of running, not only like on top of a train, but through a train and kind of just trying to escape these infected. And I thought it was really brilliantly done. And one of my favorite parts about this is, so spores at the very least haven't been introduced yet into the TV universe. Spores are a thing in the game. And in this exact same scene where Dina finds out that Ellie is immune, it plays out quite a bit differently because they have gas masks on and they run through like an area with spores, and Ellie's gas mask is broken. But in this, what they do instead is Dina is about to get bit, and instead of allowing that to happen, Ellie puts her arm out in front of the infected and gets bit. And I thought that was such a cool
human
change.
shield.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was, again, a change that is necessary based on changes that they made prior, that just makes sense. And it adds this extra level of impact and pushes their relationship even further. You understand more their relationship and how close they are. We see that there's snippets, they reference it, but in the game we have way more time to spend between the two of them, right? So by kind of showing that Ellie is willing to sacrifice herself, literally, and like put her arm in front of that, it really highlights how much Ellie loves Dina. And again, later in the episode, we kind of realize that Dina really loves Ellie too. And I really liked how that entire section played out. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. All pretty much everything you mentioned, I liked as well. My issue with this show, this episode, and kind of the show in some aspect, I just kind of feel like Ellie and Dina aren't quite taking their mission serious enough. And this is a tone that I got last episode as well. And that's kind of where my negatives come from for this episode specifically, because that it does feel like that a lot. They're going into this and it feels like they're just not ready and they don't have a plan. And I don't know, when you see these guys with these assault rifles, are you going to think, let's just keep going? It doesn't seem like they're driven enough. When you see Caitlin Dever as Abby, she's really mad. She's fueled by hate, and you can see the passion, as misguided perhaps as it may be, in behind her eyes. It feels like Ellie's not quite there, and it's weird, and I've never kind of found that she's there, and I was kind of hoping for some kind of scene that would kind of get me to that place. There is a kind of potential for that in the last episode. You kind of feel it a little bit, but I find that there's a lot of like happy-go-lucky aspects of it. It's almost too lighthearted. It almost feels like the Stranger Things kids are on a mission like to like save the world, but they're not saving the world. They're just going after somebody who hurt a member of their community, and you're noticing that they have an army, that this enemy has an army. And I find that there's just not enough hate and passion fueling the journey. Why are you doing it? Is the question. I don't feel like there's enough drive to get you there. And when she asks Dina at the end, hey, don't go with me. I don't want you to go with me. And they're like, let's do it together. It's like, this isn't a mission fueled by love or saving anyone. You're not doing anything for that. And that's okay. And revenge can be a good fuel. But when you look at the Count of Monte Cristo or any classic revenge story, Ghost of Tsushima, you know, there's this idea that they're really driven because there's a passion behind it. And that's what I'm feeling like it is missing. And this is where, like, we talked about how Bella Ramsey's good casting. Like, I agree, she's a great actor, but this is where I feel like she's showing her age. And even though Bella Ramsey's the right age, you know, people were complaining that she's not really the right age to play Ellie at this age. This is where I agree only slightly a little bit, just because I feel it's not really her fault, though. I really do think it's a writing choice, and there needs to be a bit more there. And the second thing, I'll throw it to you if you have anything to rebuttal on that. But
yeah, no, I find that interesting. Yeah, like I find that very interesting because like I don't agree. I think at least with Dina specifically, I think Dina is far more analytical and she's intelligent. Like she wants to go on this mission, but she understands like this is dangerous and she does have a plan. She's the one that, you know, goes back and talks to Ellie and says, you need medical supplies, you need this, you need that. But again, she is like a more lighthearted person, but again, understands the stakes of the situation. I think Ellie, I kind of do agree with you. I think she's definitely not as rage-filled as the game portrays her as.
That's especially the counterpart in the game. That's kind of I believed it. I believed Ellie in the game would do this and keep going. Yeah. But I don't know, like I don't see it behind her eyes. Like it's not really her fault though. Cause again, it's the writing and the directing that have to push this forward. It's funny. I complained about flashbacks last episode we reviewed. And I feel like a flashback could get you there now. Like this is where it helps move the plot forward. Because I'm not seeing, again, there's this idea that she's doing it for Joel. And even that moment with the guitar, amazing moment, great, beautiful voice.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna leave that for the end because that is my favorite part in this episode. I loved that in the video game, and I was sitting there and I teared up, man. Like it's so beautiful. Her singing "Take on Me" to Dina, Isabella Merced's expression going there, her eyes kind of tearing up, watching Ellie, like this like love that they share,
right?
Beautiful. That is, in my opinion, like the best scene of this season. And I adored it.
The missing part of that scene, though, is that there's this idea of sadness and grief turning to rage, and I feel like that's what they're missing, because the idea is Joel taught me this, and that's great, but that's like a sadness. There's just grief. There's no transition. That's kind of the problem for me, is like you're basically transforming something that's like normal human emotion that everyone should feel in grief, and how you handle it. She's choosing to handle it with revenge, but she's not really doing that in these scenes. It's strange. Like, it's like she's kind of just fighting to survive. She's getting into these situations in a very naive way and then running out of them. It's like, okay, but you just killed a random guy. Why are you here? Like, is there going to be like a moment where she's like, now I know why I'm here? Like, I don't feel like either of them. I think, by the way, you mentioned Dina as a plan. Dina knows why she's there. She's not there for revenge. Dina's there for Ellie. I believe that all the way through, and I believe that is what it is. But Ellie's not there for Dina. Like, there's this element that they're still on this adventure together.
Yeah,
you know, they're going to I was going to say the fires of Mount Doom or something, but that's a noble cause. Like, there's this idea that they're on like this they're going to go to the mountain where Smaug is to get treasure. They're not doing that. They're doing something for hate. And there's no computing there. I feel like hopefully they get there in some capacity, but I just don't feel like they have. In last episode, by the way, same idea. They're doing that journey for 14 days, theoretically, maybe like between 5 and 14 days, a long journey. And they're just happy in the sunset. And it's like, that's cool, but you got to know why you're here. That's what I'm looking for.
I think that's actually, a good point. And like a scene in this that I really hammers home the point you're making, man, is when Dina tells Ellie that she's pregnant. Yeah. And then they, go in, they have like a sex scene, whatever. And then they like talk the next morning, and it's really funny and cute and lighthearted. In the game, Ellie is angry. When Dina tells her like, I'm pregnant, Ellie gets mad, and she's like yells at Dina, is like, why the hell did you come on this? Like, you know why I'm here. You're just going to hold me back. This is a problem.
Makes sense. That's the right reaction. That scene to me doesn't make a lot of sense. I know you liked the chemistry aspects, and I did too in some aspect, but when you take a step back and look at what are they doing? They're here on this mission. She gets bitten, right? Ellie gets bitten because she's sacrificing herself in some capacity in Dina's mind. She's not, but that's what she thinks. And then Dina's like almost going to shoot her, and she's filled with kind of sadness that she might have to shoot her. Ellie also just doesn't explain properly what happened. She could have shown many different moments. Look at the thing on my stomach. I just got bitten a few days ago. Like, not a few days ago, because it's been months now because of the time jump. But it was within the year I got bitten. And then, oh, look at this. I've got bitten. Like, just, you're panicking. So you're not going to go to sleep. You're not going to sleep. That's just not happening. That's so unrealistic and stupid. You're going to go to sleep and take a risk that this person who you love might actually just think that she's putting you out of your misery because you've gone nuts thinking that you're immune. No one's immune. That's ridiculous. Like, you explain to her these beats of why you were on this journey with Joel, perhaps. Like, you can go through that. Why can't you just tell her at that point that that's where you're going to go see the Fireflies? It's strange. It's a little bit weird. Like, you don't maybe have to go that far, but at least show her the evidence. And that's a kind of an element there that was missing. There's that scene, those scenes, that whole sequence in that theater, it felt a little bit disjointed and unrealistic in some ways. Like that was also part of it. Like, you're not focused on the prize. Like, look at what you're here for. Yes, she's pregnant. Oh, that's an actual obstacle now. An obstacle. You can't risk her dying. That's ridiculous. So it's like, there's I don't know. There's a sadness instead of a kind of a call to action in those moments.
It's not even necessarily just a sadness as well. Like, there is a lot more levity in the show than in the game. Like, there's it's a very dark game. The game is incredibly dark. It's like one of the most depressing things ever, right? And there isn't that moment of, there is the moment of levity with the guitar, but again, as you said, it's like a sadness that leads into rage.
But it doesn't.
I will
here.
Yeah, in here.
Oh, you're saying the game. Oh, you're saying the game.
Sorry. And here it doesn't. And I will admit that end, like, I think that's the ending is like where it lost me a little bit. But I do like their chemistry, and I think they play off each other.
I do like the chemistry, but it's got to work within the confines of the overall plot. That's the trick. Is that it's missing the overall, like, forest for the trees kind of situation.
Yeah, it just kind of highlights there's a extra level of immaturity in this version of Ellie versus in the game. And I think it's like she has a schoolgirl crush on Dina, essentially. Yeah. And that is overtaking her hatred and rage that she should be feeling in this moment. So I do agree with you.
Which is weird because, like, you traveled for 14 days. Again, when you think about the scope of how far they're traveling, it's, again, an insurmountable, but you can do it. It's acceptable that you would travel this far for revenge. I get that. That's not the part that's unacceptable. There's this idea, though, that there's got to be drive. That takes discipline and conviction. And I don't feel the conviction. And I'm not blaming Bella Ramsey. I think that this is a writing fault. I'm just hoping that they like catch themselves and say, no, we're gonna show the audience that Ellie knows why she's here. Ultimately, that's the crucial element. So I do like this episode. I thought it was great on a skeleton level. The way it was built, the production values, the acting. Jeffrey Wright is excellent. The introduction more so of the Seraphites. The idea that these peaceful people walking down the road were killed. and you're not really sure exactly how it is that the Seraphites are attacking people. It's a strange, like there's this craziness of war, this idea that there's potentially innocents were killed, because we saw those people in last episode walking down the road and they don't seem very intimidating. And so like, who is gutting people and having their intestines splay out to make Isaac so angry? So that's really intriguing, really cool. I like seeing both sides of it too. But the main idea for the plot right now is that Ellie's on this incredibly arduous, crazy, difficult journey. And I don't know that she knows that it's difficult, which the naivety is striking me. So that's kind of what takes some things away from it.
Yeah. Like for me personally, like I really like this episode. I'm okay with the naivety. But you, I guess, kind of pointing out the lack of rage in Bella Ramsey's performance, again, possibly because of the writing. It is kind of changing my tune a little bit on this episode. I still love it. I still think it is the best of this season, but you made some good points and actually kind of changed my opinion a little bit. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, let's score it and get out of here. What's your score for this episode, sir?
This episode, I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Sounds good. I will give it the same as I gave last episode, 3.5 out of 5. That gives us a total of 7.5. No, sorry, 7.5 out of 10 potatoes.
Good stuff.
You know?
Good stuff.
You get a stew going.
Whoa. Don't throw that out.
Don't throw that out. But yeah, that's it. That was really fun. I feel like that was a very interesting conversation. I like that you like this episode, because it's been you've kind of been salty about the rest of the season. So it's interesting to see you come in with some love. I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's going to be cool. We got 3 episodes left in season 2 to talk about, but I appreciate you joining me, Adrian. Thank you, audience, for joining us. Goodbye.
Take care.